No problem. Shocking. Yeah, well, you better get. Yeah, you need to get on his page. This is all about him. Anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's a comp.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Well, it's a complicated subject, so maybe give Steve a day off.
It's 30, 45 degrees. I'm not going too far
Wow.
today. But yeah. Anyway, so I don't even know. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to do something.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
See ya.
See ya. Well,
All right.
you can continue tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Tomorrow he's going to be in surgery next day, and then he's going to be out of commission. So
No.
I don't know how he's going to pull it off because I'm not sure he understands how to rehab. You really have to do something. You know, I don't know anybody who knows how to rehab themselves. But anyway, you might need help. Isn't it nice to have help, so?
Help?
Well, you laugh.
Help.
Yeah, the word police could swoop right in on that.
I had that happen once. I think you were involved somehow, but that's besides the point.
Don't start accusing me of things like that. What did I do? I didn't do. Anyway, to be facetious about it all, the fact is, so everybody thinks they're a good person.
Yeah,
Everybody. I mean, the whole big blasted world is in some sort of self-deception delusion.
Yeah.
Thinking they're a good person. I don't even know how you could think that. Even me. I mean, what do I do? Am I going right now to go help Kevin go get his drugs? I'm certainly willing. I make the offer. People don't know how to receive help. Not talking about Kevin, but I mean, I try to help these people around here. People don't even understand what that means. So everybody's living their own life. Okay. Well, I try and help people in perspective, doing what I do on these classes. That's help. So
Yeah.
whatever everybody's doing, I guarantee God's not happy about it. How could he be?
Yeah.
So even what I'm saying now with the structure concept about marriage, and that's deep and fundamental. And if you don't understand it, then you're really live a life screwed. You're out of play. I don't even understand how you could say you're in play. That's the devil's tripping everybody up, and it's the trainer's fault for not putting them into proper structure. Or should I say covenant structure? Because it is covenant structure, and yet now back to the covenant theologians. You know, they're not. I've met them. I don't remember that discussion when I was in class seminary years ago, but I know it was opposition in play on the table, all the vomit. So people are going to argue what they argue, and I not a you know we were against the covenant theologian, right? That's my position back then. But now I'd say I would listen to him and listen differently because it is about covenant.
Yeah.
What I remember about covenant theology, which was in another class, I remember Jim saying, I'm a dispensationalist, and arguing with the covenant guy in this class, with a bunch of old millionaires. And neither one knew what they were talking about, really. And what I remember the covenant position is, they go into the basic covenant structures of the Abrahamic covenant, Davidic covenant, Palestinian covenant, all that stuff. And they're not even dealing with like the one we're establishing with the orientation to the sovereignty of Yahweh. I'll tell you what, just looking at it, you're automatically in covenant with the Most High God, and you have to know his structures, which are at the very least the top 10, including number 4. If you don't recognize him,
Yeah. It's a good
right,
way to orient somebody, right? Start
isn't it?
with that.
Yeah. There's no way you can actually get through this life properly without understanding that your footing inside those eternal covenant structures. So
Then you have to ask yourself, of course, without deceiving yourself, am I following
yeah,
the covenant? I guess it would be easier to say that, okay, I don't lie, steal, cheat, but that lying part can get a little gray if you want to think about it.
sure.
And now, are you out of the covenant? Well,
Yeah. Well, that really is part of learning something so that you can walk this life daily with an understanding. And then you have the spirit of truth in you to get you to understand your issues, your levels of self-deception. Because it's a spectrum. It's a like, again, we need the board. Look at how it interferes with your production and this word called faith, which is going to bring in love for God, love for people. If you're in some self-deception, you're off. You're done. You're actually casualty, right? So how am I going to recognize that?
I was going to say, there's a point where I'm going to say, grow up and you contemplate that. Am I deceiving
Mhm.
myself or deceiving, that's a big deal. And I dare say a lot of people don't get there.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, actually, the
And if you
whole
get
entire
there,
thing is designed to get you there. You got to
right,
get there.
if
Yeah.
you do get there, you can't think you're something supercalifragilistic because that opens up another door, so.
If you do get there, you will have gotten there in a way that really precludes you from thinking you're something
Well,
because you don't
humility
get there.
has to be the door to open, otherwise you'll get self-righteous.
Right.
And
And
we've all
when
bumped
does that
into
come
those
from?
guys. Yeah.
So that's going to come from enforced humility, which is authority coming in and fixing you at the point of failure or rebuking or addressing you at the point of failure. And that's not, this is the problem. We need whiteboards. The problem with dealing with the authority of God versus the authority of one of his or someone who claims to be his, like a pastor. And so he's going to rebuke you. Well, let's get it outside of the church structures and into what? The home. Now the husband's going to be the one in charge, in rule, and he's going to be scrutinizing and determining when there's rebuke. And who wants to live around someone who's analyzing you all the time, like a fruit inspector? That's the Reformed camp. So now you have to look at the Reformed people who, back to the point about obedience, all they say, obey, 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 obey. The whole, you come, you're going to look at scriptures and see that faith is tied to obedience. Actually, faith is tied to authority orientation, which is tied to obedience. Okay, so what do we want me to obey? The whole, even prayers, Jesus is saying it, ask anything in my name, these, that it's the person who's in keeping his commands, which is in obedience. And that's different. This is why I don't use the word. The word tereo is to keep, to have, and to hold. The word obey is hupakuo, which is to listen, to subordinate to. So I'm about the only one, and they'd all throw me out because I'm undermining obedience. I mean, it's done. You're out. Stop it. You're hurting people. But obedience to me is when you get off the bus at 19 and your drill instructor says, gives you 5 commands, you're going to do them. So is your relationship with Yahweh like a drill instructor? Well, wouldn't that orient you to authority? Wouldn't
Yeah.
the parental authority of the Father orient you to God's authority so that you govern yourself that way? And isn't that enforced humility? So that when you get old enough, you don't need to be told and commanded. You just need, because you're already oriented, you just need to listen to what he wants. That's hupakua. That's actually the covenant walk. That's actually marriage. Now, I do need a board. I'm telling you, as far as I wish to hope it's recorded, I'm telling you now, and I've said it before and I'll continue because that's the way I see it. I've actually lost a couple people. I mean, there's people who will hear it and agree with it, but not what I just said, especially the covenant and reform guys who demand to use the word obedience. And they never tell you obey what. At least my friend Gary was doing classes. He called it the commands of Christ.
Right.
I don't know. I remember he didn't talk or teach the way I do. So it became a little rote, and that's a problem too, because that's everything the evangelicals are pushing against, because rote memory or rote obedience to a set of rules and laws is not it either. But you can't get outside the fact that there are laws that govern the way we think and behave. So it's a little on the one hand and on the other. Now you're looking at real
Yeah.
dynamic
Yeah. The
between God and the
dynamic of
person.
love. Yeah.
Yep. Now you have, I'm just going to say, ultimately, how does this all unfold and work? And the answer is the love of God. So, what is love? Love is a power, it's a structure that governs, it's a power that governs the structure that you reside in, even inside your marriage. Covenant. Certainly your marriage to God. Covenant. It's actually stated as a marriage to Jesus. It sent one, the human element that you could look at. And the man actually represents that. The woman should want that. The problem is, there are very few women, and I know there's plenty of them, who understand the need for them, to how to orient to everything that I'm saying. I talked to one person, but what are they, in their 50s, divorced twice? I mean, now they understand this is what they need in a man. How many men are going to pull that off so she can subordinate and orient? And who knows what kind of a life that would be with the disorientation that's always going to come around for her, because she's not, well, she's still got her bedfellows and still a little disoriented, and well, she's a woman. They're still getting poked, and I mean, it's a really complicated thing. Unless you just throw the whole thing away and become a circumstantial believer, which is really just a secular believer, because they never really study and understand instruction in righteousness, which is, we're now back to Torah, which is
Right.
really,
From God's point of view. Now you understand why the generation coming up is going to have real trouble with it. That they're just not going to subordinate like that unless they were, well, trained. Remember, Pop used to have trouble with that word, trained.
yeah, how about that?
How about
I remember,
that?
and the people who have trouble with the word are doing that. I know someone who's got trouble with authority, so they didn't want to become authoritative to their children. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, ultimately, you're taking command and it's authoritative because you're enforcing your position on authority, which you think you're relaxing so someone can operate under their own fill in the blank. Think about it. It falls apart.
And have you ever asked somebody why, why they don't?
Yeah.
Pursue it, and they say the answer is because they want their kids to be happy.
Well, you know what it really is? You know what, if you really nail it down?
Well, it's such a
it's because
BS answer.
They don't understand. They've been misled by authority, and they now resent it. They do. It's a boss, a father, an uncle, a coach, a pastor, a priest, whatever it is and was, a fellow Christian even. You now resent the authority, the structures, and everything that's represented poorly. And so now what are you going to do? You tighten it up and fix it. No, I'm going to throw it away to let my kids be happy, which is almost a guarantee that they become off balance, which is unhappy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So how do you fix it?
It's complicated, huh? Takes about a lifetime to figure all that out, huh?
Seemingly what because it is a lifetime me talking now, but yeah, because I didn't talk like this 20 years ago. So why? Because I was talking from the standpoint of a teacher. Now, I had a good teacher and I stayed with it. What if you don't have a teacher, or you don't stay with it, or you only get them once a week, which is only 15 minutes on a Sunday? Where are you with it, right? How are you going to fix anything? I got work to do. I can't think about these things. Literally, I've heard that. I can't think about these things. Steve, I really appreciate you with it, but I got to go. So, so that's that's really the world, and well, you could be in parts of the world where you're not so trapped and inundated with things. And what do you have there? You have a guy who doesn't necessarily have access to well thought out or well developed understandings of God's way through His Word. So either you're going to say, like some, it can't be that. It can't be the way you're talking about, or it can't be theological structures, because look at how few people are doing it and how difficult. It's got to be something else. Like what? I want to make it easy. I want it to be my way. So I make my way the highway to Yahweh. Isn't that a little rough? I mean, yeah. So now is the way. If you find it, that's not talked about. You have to find your way, big guy, to the way, which is Jesus is going to say, "I am the way." The way to what? Well, the way to the Father, the way to the kingdom, the way to righteousness, holiness. Right. Without which, by the way, in Hebrews 13, I think it's 5, if you're not pursuing, which is finding the way, he sets up two things: peace and holiness, without which you won't see him. You won't see the Lord. So two pieces you have to chase down, seek out, find, and then get on the path so that you can be understanding all the things put in front of you. That's peace and holiness. Anything else? As if that's the only thing. Now, this is what your friendly neighborhood fill in the blank theologian is going to do. It's all about those two things, because that's all that's mentioned right there in that verse. Like, read the rest of the Bible and put some stuff together. What else do you think you have to chase down?
Yeah.
And so for the covenant theologian or the reformed guy, it's obedience. Obedience, obedience, obedience. You don't. And so I'm going to say, obedience to what? And if they turn around and say him, which they probably do, I think you're actually lost when you say that. And a Pentecostal will pick it up and say, yeah, that's why you have to meet him. That's why you have to find him, like be in his presence. So now they're going to write a book to give you mechanics to follow meditative prayer to find him. And I just worked out with somebody yesterday who's so lost because they're so involved in meditative prayer.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that's incorrect in the sense where prayer is meditative. It's a deep concentration. And now we're back to on what? On what? On who? And if you're going to say the commands that I have to follow, that would be the what. Wouldn't it behoove a pastor to find the commands of Christ and start talking about them? And that was the project that we were going to do in 2005, the Imperatives Project.
Yeah.
I pulled up a list of them and printed them out when I was at 25 Boston, and I left them. We never did the study. I guess we weren't really even going to. And even though, they wanted to. And when I left the house, I left them under the Infant of Prague statue. It's about 2.5, 3 feet tall. And it's still on the hutch stuff. It's still there.
Oh boy.
And I said, look, your mother put that there. My dad, our dad, made fun of it. And there it is, still up there. Oh, it's just up there. You just leave it alone. That's why I talk about demons like that. They're up in the corner. That little statue's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
It's a stinky bum. It's alive. You leave it alone because, well, it says leave me alone. I'm not doing anything. I'm not bothering anybody. Just put me on top of the hutch. Dust me off once in a while, please. So what's the big deal about that statue? And, well, I don't know, ask Kevin about Deuteronomy, I forgot, 7:25, 6, 7, how much he hates idols and idolatry. Like, is it, oh, God doesn't hate. It's two word, it abhors, disdains it. Okay, so
Where-
throw that thing
Where
out,
is
right?
that? Deuteronomy. Where is
7.
it? Yeah.
So, anyway, what you need to do, Mr. Christian, really, is to start figuring out by reading slowly. So I think we actually started doing it in John 1. I was going to point out things. Of course, I can't not comment about what we're reading because I don't like to just read it for the sake of reading. So maybe we can do that and I'll show you. Even if we just start again, maybe I can get through it without going. So John 1. Yes, you can't read without explaining. I can't. It's just too much. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So we know that's Logos. So in the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. So it's translated into the English as Word. But Logos is more than just word. In fact, it's so loaded, you can't find one word to describe it. But here's where what I would try to get you to see. Verse 2 is, he was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through him, and without him nothing that was made was even made. There was, okay, that's a funny way to put it. So now he's saying that the Logos is the person who is eternal, who is the creator. You have to see it that way. He's the Logos of life. He's the Logos of God. So what in the world? Wouldn't you want to know what Logos is? So that's what I do with it. You have to figure that out. All we know and at least need to know per se from these verses is that the Word, the Logos, is him, was him. He's the creator and the sustainer. It comes out in Colossians. Let's go to Colossians. Let's see what I'm doing with it. I can't just read scripture. We can't even get to the initial command.
Right.
Okay, so let's look at Colossians. So this is John 1, Colossians 1, Hebrews 1, Revelation 1. You're going to find out who he is. Okay, let's just go like this. We'll keep going in John 1. Now I'm just going to read. All things were made through him. Without him, nothing that was made was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shines in darkness. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
That's my friend from Greece who I haven't talked to in over a year.
But you can take it. I don't feel too good anyway.
Okay.
Gotta get some sleep.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
pick it up, John.
okay. See you.
I'll call you back.
Okay.